Now we have with us Malik Kotadia, co-founder and chairman of Finnovation Labs. He's joining us, and then we have we'll shortly be having Ajit Tripathi as well, and then we have Preeti Khurana, director of advocacy and regulation. Clear. A very warm welcome to both of you. Malik, my question to you: can Russia really evade sanctions using cryptocurrency?
Hi, Arun. Firstly, it's a pleasure to be back on your show, and as always, you picked a very topical theme. I think what you are asking is something which is amplified by this conflict, but it has been, discussed in the community for the longest possible time on the risks versus the opportunities of decentralized system. And always, I mean, this is a question of, can you really control a system which is by its very architecture decentralized? You spoke about, we've seen Russia has been removed from SWIFT, and there is this talk about can it bypass these sanctions using crypto. Now, I'll give a couple of examples on both sides, and I don't think there is a very definitive answer. We have seen countries like North Korea doing this for a while. We saw this hack earlier this year or earlier last year, where a $400 million hack happened, and that was done through crypto. We've also seen, non-conflict zones, but countries like El Salvador or Venezuela, who've kind of not only legalized but wholeheartedly adopted crypto and Bitcoin for their own socio-political, economic reasons. This is not entirely unprecedented of going to crypto when you have a sanction or when the mainstream or the Western financial system is not entirely in your favor. As far as can it bypass, I think I'll just give the analogy of a tunnel. When you have a tunnel, what happens inside a tunnel with the vehicles, you cannot really see, and you don't have visibility to that. So crypto can be seen in that sense. It is pseudonymous. I mean, it's not really anonymous. We all understand it, but we say it's pseudonymous, like a tunnel. So you may not really know what's happening inside the tunnel, but you can definitely track it in various ways by tracking what's going inside and what's coming out of the tunnel, what we call.
So in one word, can it evade sanctions using crypto or no?
No. My own view is it will be very limited because there are a lot of liquidity challenges, etc.
Okay, I have some other questions for other guests, but before that, very quick reactions from Ajit and Preeti. Preeti, with you first. Can Russia really evade sanctions? A quick answer.
Actually, that's a very interesting, view to understand whether Russia will be able to evade sanctions. As we have seen that this is a borderless currency and there is speed, there is unhindered access.
Sure.
And in that sense, it may be very, very challenging for governments to prevent, this kind of thing from happening. So, the access may be far more easier, and in the days of digitization technology, it becomes easier for enterprises to start offering apps on or new ways of accessing cryptocurrencies can become very, very, very possible in this kind of scenarios. So yeah, I mean, I would tend to think that it may be possible for Russia to continue to find a backdoor. I mean, essentially, a lot of countries, and like the other panelist was mentioning, they used cryptocurrencies as like a backdoor currency. So it may be possible to an extent.
Okay. So first we had no as an answer, then we have an answer which is maybe. Ajit Tripathi is with us, advisor, Institutional Capital, Polygon. A very warm welcome. What is your quick opinion on this?
Yeah, so I think there are lots of myths, right? So first of all, Russia has not been sanctioned. So several individuals that are based in Russia, the Russian central bank, and certain Russian government agencies have been censored. So all of these have kind of known addresses associated with them, and when they appear on the OFAC sanctions list, then all of the centralized exchanges where most of the liquidity is already sanctioned and block these types of addresses. So any large-scale transfers are not possible. So now if the government changes the rules, the US government or European government say, look, Coinbase or Binance, you need to actually block everything that's coming out of Russia, all the addresses associated with Russia, then they will follow the law. So all of these entities are obliged to follow the law. They're not obliged to, go above and beyond the law and block private Russian citizens. So one thing we should also realize is that Ukraine is one of the countries with the highest crypto adoption.
Yes.
So crypto is actually helping the citizens of Ukraine, deal with the tyranny of Russia right now.
Sure, but in the time of crisis, or let's say in the time of war, in this case, why are we seeing crypto come out as such a strong tool, Malik, in all of this?
Sorry.
So I think this, and this is an excellent question, Arun. This has been a debate for the longest time, or whether crypto is a hedge and a safe haven, or it's just another risk asset. And I think I personally believed, and I was researching this data for the longest time. I'll just give an example of a study done by a friend and colleague of mine, Mr. Ronit Ghosh, who's the global head of Citibank for research for banking and digital assets. Their study showed that, and I'm saying this is before the conflict, that there was a 91% correlation, or around that 90% correlation with M2 money supply. So essentially, it was following the same trajectory as other risk assets like stock exchanges or money supply, etc. So really, that entire argument that this is a hedge against inflation or this is a safe haven never really stood up for the last 10 or 12 years. But what we've seen in the last week is really something different. We've seen this spike not just in Bitcoin prices, but in Ether and also stable coins like Luna, etc. They are
Definitely.
up 20 to 80%. So I think the jury is out. It's too early to say whether it's a safe haven and finally this establishes or not. History has not proven that so far, but we are seeing a divergence for the first time, and Bitcoin and cryptos are behaving more like gold than other risk assets.
Okay, seeing the rapid use of it, Preeti, since you specialize in regulation, are we looking at a global regulation after this entire chapter?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, this kind of scenario, governments may not have truly imagined, what could happen if there is some sort of a war or there is an economic collapse.
Okay.
And this, I believe, will, hasten the efforts by governments to introduce their own digital currency, working on their digital currencies and sort of even more deeply regulating what's happening in their own countries in terms of, how people have access, how, they are transacting, what are the implications, what are the penalties if you're in non-compliance. So I think in that sense, laws will be sort of made more stringent, and governments are going to wake up to this kind of a scenario pretty soon.
Okay, Ajit, quick word from you. I've run out of time for this segment, but what do you think? Are we looking at a global regulation after this?
Yeah, I think harmonization of rules, across the world is not a bad idea, because this is essentially Internet of Value, Internet of Money. So I think we need to create regulation that makes sense at the global level. And we've always been working towards that.
Okay. Well, thank you so very much, all of you, for joining us.